Romans 12:2 simply says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So in order for your change to come, you have to change your way of thinking. You can pray when you're down and out. Do you think you can give when your funds are low? Do you think you can trust him to bring you out? Are you ready for your change to come? Are you ready? Tell me, are you ready?
Good afternoon. This is Pastor Coach McKissic from Be the Ram Global Fellowship. I have two of my close and good friends here, Pastor Adams and Pastor Livingston. Today we're going to have a conversation about how do you respond in the midst of a crisis, not just a global health pandemic, but we are in a crisis, a political crisis, a religious crisis, a mindset crisis. I'm going to let those guys introduce themselves and then we'll move forward.
Okay. My name's Anthony Adams. I'm the senior youth pastor of World Changes Church International. Here in College Park, Georgia, where our pastors are Dr. Creflo A. Dollar and Pastor Taffy L. Dollar. And man, I'm excited and honored to be here with Coach McKissic today.
Thank you, Pastor Adams. My name is Reverend Dr. Coach J. Livingston, and I am the pastor of Remnant Fellowship. We are a young adult church between the ages of 19 and 40, and we look to engage, nourish, restore, and equip young adults for Christian service. We're beginning our fourth year here within Clayton County, and we try to do as much work as we can with our demographic on social media and technology. And we're just looking forward to having this conversation because it's a very needed conversation, and try to continue to bless our people in hopes that God will continue to bless our hands.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pastor Jay and Pastor Adams. I'm once again Pastor Coach McKissic of Be the Ram Global Fellowship, where we believe in winning the 97%. What that means is that you are not at church. You are not in a biblical environment 97% of your week. And what we're doing here is we're having a conversation that we cannot avoid. It's not something that we can act like didn't happen. Right now, there is a crisis going on, and there's all kind of chaos. And we want to make sure that we equip our spiritual people, our brothers and sisters, with the correct information that they can go out and win the 97%. Right now, I'm going to play a small clip, and then we're just going to have a real conversation about it. It'll be unedited. It'll be unscripted. It's just a conversation between four guys who want to get the truth out.
In. Come on, baby. Easy. We're in. We're in. I'm trying to hold back for you.
Start with Pastor Adams. How does it make you feel when you see that video?
Angry, disturbed, initially confused, like, I can't believe this is happening. It's been over 200 years. And it's not like I was here 200 years ago, but just in school when they teach you about things like this isn't something the last two generations has even seen. So when you think about the Capitol, where they're coming up with laws, and it's such a important, sacred, prestigious place, and you see that type of chaos there, in my mind, I feel like I'm watching what was that? The Batman movie? I forgot which one.
Dark Knight.
Bang.
Yeah. I felt like I was watching them. Like, at some point, Ashton Kutcher is going to pop out somewhere and say that this is a joke. But as reality set in, I'm like, this is serious. This is happening. I can't believe this is happening. And so initially, I was angry. My mind immediately just started going, okay, well, what do I need to do here? We just moved to East Coweta. We just moved to Coweta County. So the thoughts started coming up as far as, even as me and my wife were driving home from church yesterday, as you pass by the cars on the highway, you can feel the tension. It's like you got folks looking over, and maybe it was just us, but I doubt it, but this whole political run and, Democrats and Republicans has turned into black and white. And it's becoming deeper and bigger than just an election or just politics. And it's, it was kind of scary, to be honest with you, just being all the way transparent with you. So my initial feeling was anger, caution, and, a little bit of confusion as far as, okay, well, what do I do as far as my family, as far as, protecting, as far as, okay, well, when you go into your neighborhood, you see some, Harris, Biden, and then you see some signs that say Trump, Pence, and it's like, does everyone that says Trump, Pence, are they like the people that's breaking into the Capitol? You know what I mean? So that was my initial feeling.
Well, I'll piggyback before I forget. I would say that I kind of felt the same way as you. I also live in Coweta County. And yes, Georgia is a blue state, but we live in a red county. And it's very red, to the point that I was walking to fill up my gas can the other day. I had to walk to the gas station, and I'm walking by, and I'm hoping that nobody stops to pick me up, because I'm like, I'm not even sure that I would accept it. So when I saw it at first, I saw it on TikTok, and I'm like, oh, this must be something old or something created. And then it was similar to the Twin Towers moment. Well, wait, no, this is really happening.
Right.
And it did just make me worry that when I look and I see your son, what happens if someone decides, a group of people, that they're just going to bum rush my child's school and I can't be there to protect them? And yes, they say, oh, well, we'll get there. But by the time they get there, they've already done what they needed to do or what they came to do. And after the fact, it's just afterthoughts. So I did get a little worried. I wondered, what should I do? Is it okay to be angry? Is it okay to be mad?
Yeah.
Yes, it's when people look at me, are all the Trump voters, are they all having the same thought process?
Right.
I have someone that I'm close to that's very pro-Trump. And, I know their heart and I know they love me, but it does make me wonder, how can you celebrate that when you see someone else in pain? Coach Jay?
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of figured that would probably happen just based upon the climate over the last 4 years. There's this constant understanding that what we need as a people is a leader that is a uniter, not a divider. And for the last 4 years, that's basically what it's been. And it has eroded into the black-white issue, the race issue. And that reason is because what we have is the tail wagging the dog. You know, there's a lot of good Republicans. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of black Republicans, because that's a political thing.
Right.
But the personal thing becomes a racial thing. That's when the race enters into the conversation. And when that happens, it skews the whole understanding of why we're here. You know, we're not really talking about politics anymore. We're talking about people.
Right.
Right? We're talking about protests. We're talking about pandemics. We're talking about a whole lot more other than the simple understanding of what politics is. Politics is governing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. That's all politics is. It's putting together programs and policies that govern the people that you serve.
Right.
Right? However, what took place, which if you think about it, maybe about 12 years ago, the Tea Party was the ones that blew it for the Republican Party because they came in and they were the extreme right. And that extreme right stepped in and they wanted to kind of take over and decide what the political landscape was going to be. And after a while, people said, no, we can't do that. And all what's happening now is the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, the militias, that far extreme right group. That's a small tail. But when our president attached himself to that group and said, well, there's very fine people on both sides. No, there's not very fine people on both sides. There's a side of people that's not good, and you attached yourself to it, and then you took a lot of other blacks who bought into that, put them on stage with you, brought them in, gave some black colleges some money and said, y'all should be satisfied now while we continue to hate on you. We get it? The criminality started with the riots. We said they were peaceful protests. No, all of a sudden we're robbers and stealers and, we're setting fires and it's got to be stopped. You got to bring in the military to do it. But when it happened on that side of the street and that color came into existence, now all of a sudden they're peaceful protesters. Take your time getting there. I'm not sure we want the military there. So what's happening is the good Republicans now that was in control and wanted to run their policies, they got drowned out by an idiot who wanted to drown out people. And so the whole thing started with the Trump rally at the day of the documentation for the verification of the vote, right? So he did that purposely because the nation. Why would the outgoing president hold a rally during the time in which the electoral college is going to vote for the next incoming president?
You said two things that makes me think. You said we need a leader that can unite, not divide. And then you mentioned a leader that attached himself to a far away group that was about negativity. Now, when I did not get the head football job at Morrow, there was an individual that was hired. And you said, well, he may not be hired to win. He's here to clean up the program. And that was the role because that's why they hired him. And that makes me think at this point as Christians, as men of faith and a young man of faith here, what is our role in this community and what should we be careful of not attaching ourselves to?
Got you. Me personally, as a leader, I'm always conscious of what I say publicly because I know in the seat that I sit in, people are, especially young people, are listening to what I say and they'll take what I say and they'll run with it. So if I'm highly emotional and angry and expressing that, then that begins to cascade down to the students and then they become that. And ultimately I'm held accountable because in an emotional moment, I let them, because whether I'm having a moment or not, I'm still a leader. I'm still their leader. And for me, our role is as believers, as men of God, as children of God, you know, our hope and faith isn't in Democratic Party or Republican Party. It's in God. So it's like, you know, it doesn't matter who wins the election. You know, our God supplies all of our needs according to his riches and glory. And I'm brought to a realization of, you know, yesterday I felt real fear. I felt real, and when I say fear, not a scary type of fear, but more of I'm thinking about things that I wouldn't normally have to think about. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's everybody goes through that. However, as a leader, you know, I tell my son, sometimes I got to renew my mind 30 times a doggone day. That's why God gave it to us, the ability to renew our mind. And when I took time and I responded instead of reacting, you know, it's a big difference. You know, I was teaching the kids the other day, they don't call first responders first reactors for a reason. You know, reaction is more of an emotional knee-jerk type of situation compared to responding, having wisdom and time to consider it. And now the wisdom of God can come out of a proper response. So as a leader, my position is to show the students and the people who I teach to have a faith response. And it brought me to James 3, 16 and 17. And I'll read it quickly. It says, "For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work." Then verse 17 says, "But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy." When I think of that, one of the key words in it was fruit. The fruit is what we saw yesterday. We saw chaos. We saw anarchy. We saw people breaking into the Capitol, and they're in Nancy Pelosi's office chilling. And then you got somebody looked like he was from the Village People running around and different things. We can get caught up in the fruit and get emotional. And it's like, yeah, let's get them, let's get them. But we negate the root. The root of it is where there is envying and where there is strife, there will be confusion and every evil work. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, or the things that you can see, hear, feel, touch, smell. So as a leader, my position is, you know, what is it about me that I believe? I believe that we walk by faith and not by sight. Well, what am I seeing? I'm seeing something, but my faith says no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So when I renew my mind, I'm renewing my mind to no weapon formed against me. I see what's going on. And instead of putting my mouth on that on social media, I'm going to, it's obvious that, oh, well, if those were black folks, we would have been shot up. If it's obvious, if, you know, if we get out there, you know, well, what about with Rayshard Brooks, or what about with this? It's obvious to do that, but I feel like that's adding more to the obvious. It's adding more to the division that's already there. As a believer, I'm going to say, Father God, I declare and I decree right now, because it's that declaring and decreeing that got me out of my life sentence that I was facing in Clayton County. So I know that it's real. I'd be a fool to change positions now to fall in line with the popular, or with what's popular for people to do. And that's point at this and point at that, point at this and point at that. No, as a believer, I point at the root of that thing. And it's the spirit behind Donald Trump. It's the spirit behind that hatred and that division that white supremacists like to push and like to instill into their children. And then my kid has to deal with it. It's that spirit behind that. And as a believer, I have authority over that. And I use that authority by declaring and decreeing. The issue comes in when people see people like me do that, they look at it as weakness. Mm-hmm. Oh, what you gonna do? You gonna say another prayer? Well, I mean, you should have caught me 20 years ago when I was emotional. And if something like this was to happen, I'm pulling out my pistol and I'm putting it, to the same people that's talking stuff now. I'm putting that pistol, to their head. And it's like, okay, well, bump all that. I just want what's in your pocket. You don't want me emotional. You want me where I am right now. And I'm a child of God who really believes what I teach to my students. So, it's not a popular seat that we sit in, and it's not always going to be the praised, especially when people are emotional and highly driven by the fruit instead of the root. But, I was taught at a very young age that lions aren't moved by the opinions of sheep. We stick to our guns. I walk by faith. It's not a cliche. I really do. It's been what's brought me out of my pit of despair when I was facing life in prison, when I was selling drugs, when I was kicking in doors, when I was pimping women, when I was doing all of those things. It was my faith in Jesus Christ that brought me out. So I'd be a fool to revert back to, getting highly emotional. Am I tempted to? Heck yeah. Did a piece of me wish I was down there with them so I could give them the what for? Heck yeah. But as a leader, am I going to look at that, count the cost, and go and make a emotional reaction so that all of the kids that follow me do that too? I dare not. I dare not.
Coach Jay.
Well, the ideal of what Pastor Adams is referring to is where I was going. It's a matter of our faith.
Yeah.
Once you've made that decision to give your life to Christ, then what you're saying is, I believe that you will make a better decision with me than what I can do. Here, take this over. You got it.
Right.
You got it, and I got you. So I'm depending on you. So I read and study that word. And if that word tells me to do something, then I'm about doing that. As a coach, it's the kind of same situation that you want from players. Mm-hmm. And think about it. What coach wants a player that's not going to listen to him?
Right.
Then why you need a coach? You out there and play by yourself. And then sometimes the players don't trust what the coach is saying because the coach is telling them, run this play. Well, that ain't going to work. How come I can't have the ball? Or whatever that situation might be. And that's what we're dealing with a group of people who are not walking in faith. Not faith in God, but faith in their guns. I need the Second Amendment. The First Amendment, I say what I want to say. They're walking in laws of man.
Right.
Not laws of God.
Right.
And so what happens is just like Pastor Adams is saying here. Sometimes I'm like, hey, don't forget, I wasn't saved always.
Right.
And I still got some of that old man in me that I got to deal with. So when I see that kind of stuff, a lot of times I just got to step back and say, okay, let me go into my prayer closet. Let me try to figure out what's really going on. Mm-hmm. So here's a thought for today, which I kind of want to share with you all. It says, if your faith is in the governing power of men, mm-hmm. our days are going to be difficult.
Right.
However, if your comfort is in the governing power of Christ, it's just another day.
Right. That's good.
Because for us, we've got to be able to govern ourselves based upon what the word says, not based upon what the world says.
Right.
And what our people is, the ones who are not where we are on that spiritual plane, we got to go get them and teach them that, show mm-hmm. them that, walk with them while they do that. Mm-hmm. Now, all those people out there, do they all need to die and go to hell? I don't think so.
No.
I think what that means is we got work to do.
Exactly. I totally agree with you, man. I feel like a lot of times, you know, when you see unbelievers do it, that's what they're supposed to do.
Correct.
But we have an issue now where believers are now adding gasoline to the fire. And as leaders, we're held accountable for that, one. But we have to make sure that we are being pillars of the word of God or anchors of it, to the point where when people see us, even if they're not picking up their Bibles, when they see us, they see the word. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, I've been telling my students, it's crucial that you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ for yourself. You have the written word, but then you also have what he's saying to you in that moment. You have the absolute voice of God that can speak to you. He hears you, and he hears you, and you can hear him. When we're praying, it's not just us saying things, it's us speaking, and now we have a ear to hear. So in that is where the action comes from. If I'm doing something, like let's say, oh, I see what happened, and all of a sudden, you know what, I want to go get a whole bunch of teenagers together, and we're going to get some signs, and we're going to march up and down Old National. Well, that's my emotions telling me to do that. And, you know, faith without works is dead, but works without faith will kill you. So if you out there doing that and God ain't told you to do that, you now set yourself up for some dangerous stuff, and all the people that with you, they get it too. So it's like, Lord, what part do I play? Anthony, I want you to educate people on what legislation is. Anthony, I want you to do that. Okay, well, that's my part. Well, my part may not look like the other person's part that can go out and peaceful protest and be down there with things like that. As much as I naturally want to, I got to do what God is instructing me to do. And in that, I feel like that's where the disconnect is coming from, because what one person feels like God is telling them to do, he feels like everybody has to be doing the same thing. And if you're not doing what I'm doing, then, you know, it's us against you, or you're not a real Christian, or you one of those old time preachers, and you just about talk, and now we tripping. And it's not like that, but it's one of those situations where it's like, man, it's a spiritual warfare, and it's not just all talk. We're not just talking, but there's literally life and death in the power of our tongues. So I feel like it gets to a point where when it comes to, and I'm just talking about believers, do you really believe what you read? Do you really believe, is your faith really in Jesus Christ, or is it in the emotional knee-jerk reaction that happens when you see things around you? So, you know, that's my 2 cents on it. But I feel like there's more division in the body of Christ, you know, between the denominations and between the, you know, the people that feel like they've been called to be on the front lines and the people that feel like they've been called to educate, and, you know, they got an opinion on this and they got an opinion on that. And in the meanwhile, you know, my son is sitting here and he's like, listen, I don't know about none of that crap y'all talking about. All I know is
how you act.
Yeah, I know that, and I feel weird when I go to school, because it's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to think in a situation like that? You know what I mean?
Now, when I saw the clip of them closing the door, I kind of saw it from a spiritual, or not closing, breaching, from a spiritual standpoint. And I think a lot of us are at that point where we're letting sin breach our lives. You know, it's been beating on the door, it's been beating on the door, it's been trying to get in, and at some point, the walls fell down. And I would use an analogy, speaking to Shane. Now, you play video games, right? Sometimes. Now, if you're online, let's say if you're playing 2K and you're up, and then the internet drops, what happens?
I gotta go fix it.
But in the meantime, while the internet is down or going slow, do you know what it's called?
No.
We call it lagging. You ever heard of lagging?
Oh, yeah.
Lagging. So if you're playing a game, for those who don't know, if you're playing a video game and your internet gets slow, there's a connection issue, it starts lagging. So you're pressing buttons and the players aren't doing what you're telling them to do. They're just standing there running out of bounds, like running. And what that is, if you look at it from a spiritual standpoint, we are called to be obedient to Christ. If Christ is in control, if he's the one holding the remote, like Coach Livingston said, Pastor Jay, you want players that are going to do what you tell them to do. It doesn't matter how good those players are. It doesn't matter how good you sing. It doesn't matter how good you preach. It doesn't matter how well you know the Bible. But if you're not being obedient to Christ, then you're lagging out. Then you're that player that everybody else is doing what they're supposed to do, and you're sitting here running out of bounds. And that lag comes from a disconnection to Christ. Just like that internet. If you are disconnected to Christ, you're going to start lagging. And if you start lagging, you're going to lose. Eventually, you're going to lag out, and you're going to get put out the game. And I look at that breach as though a lot of us have been lagging. We've been lagging, and eventually the walls just fell down. Yeah. So what spiritual standpoint and what last bit of advice would you give to someone who may feel like right now, I'm lagging out. I just can't find a connection. One, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I used to lean on coming to the church, getting real emotional, getting my Holy Ghost high, and it was going to last me, next week. Or I was just in the club the night before. I just met old Keisha, old Bonquisha. It went down. I got to go back and get right, in case I die tomorrow. So I came to church, it came right. But now that option is not there. So a lot of us, we're online and then we get caught up in the web. So what do you do if you're lagging and you need to get reconnected?
That's the change.
Well, I think the ideal is like Beast Mode said. It's not get ready, it's stay ready.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, I'm going to pray. No, it says pray without ceasing. Right? So it's the things that we learn about Christ. It's the things that the mature Christian understands about Christ that the non don't. And the ideal of what we have to do, we have to make our call and election sure. I mean, what are we really here for? Okay, God saved me, so I'm good because I'm saved. Well, what does that do for the kingdom? For real.
Right.
So what happens is we see these things happening in the world, but then we're not quite sure what we should do about it, right? So we got to make our call and our election sure. Lord, what you want? Here am I. Send me. What do you want me to do?
Right.
And then be about the business of doing it. All the rest of that stuff is inconsequential. For real. And I'm just being real with you. If we are to be the hands of God, the eyes of God, the feet of God, and just stay home and do nothing, or don't even reach out to people that's hurting, or I can't deal with you. Why are we always putting people to the left? You go, I'm done with you. What is Christ done with you?
Right.
So what happens is we become hypocritical. And let me tell you something. There's 3 things that my young adults hate more than anything else. One is judgmental people. And we get to become judgmental people because we can tell you what thus saith the Lord.
Self-righteous.
There you go. The second thing is hypocritical. That, you tell other people what to do, but you don't do it yourself. So when they see you, they go, what's up with that? And then that puts a black eye to Christ. Because now they see Christ through you, and what you do represents Christ. The third thing that they do is they don't want unauthentic people. Don't talk to me about your God, and then you can't even carry somebody's bags, an old woman's bag across the grocery store parking lot, because you just don't want to do because it's you. You that guy. Well, that's what's happening. We're seeing what we are supposed to fix, and some of us are not willing to fix it. So just like the Lord told the parable of the 3 seeds, the people who were passing out seeds, they would go, the coins, they gave him money, said, take care of this while I'm gone. He used it, got 5-fold back. The next one used it, got 3-fold back. The other one didn't use it, said, because you are a hard taskmaster and I didn't want to lose your coin. So he says, that what you have, I now take. Mm-hmm. So we got all these gifts, all these blessings that we're talking about, and then don't use them for the betterment of the kingdom. We're just using them for the betterment of ourselves. Really? Right. Is this what we're doing? Is this what Christ wants us to do? Or does he want us to speak up? Does he want us to get in the public square and go, hey, this is the way it's supposed to go? No, right. Get off the wall. No, you don't need to do that. And then, hey, listen, okay, here's a real thing. Again, politics is about governing people. Why would you vote for a person who is anti-government and put them in the highest seat in government? So what does that tell you about the people that voted for him? Well, some of them voted for him because they thought about policy. Some of them voted for him because they knew what he would do. And he would do their bidding. And what you see now is the fruit.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
I'll end it with, I'll let Shane end it for us. And what I want you to do as a young believer, and I'm sure you are a young believer. I've watched you when you haven't known and I'm watching. Watch you with what you did in the church and what you praise and worship. And I look and I say, AJ, that's somebody who you need to be following. But I want you to speak to the adults, the leaders as adults. You as a young black man, you're black, young black man in Christ. What do you expect, or what would you like to see right now from adults in leadership?
I mean, really just keep being leaders, because that's like, it's nothing more you can really ask for. Just keep leading by example, giving the right information. So like, we're not just going around saying the wrong stuff. Like, we're not walking in hatred because of people are doing this, because it's like, they're not doing this out of their own feelings. They're doing this because they had a leader that influenced how they was thinking. Yeah. So we need a leader that influenced the right way of thinking and lead us to the right place.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. We all need leaders. And because at times, I'll be honest, Shane, we feel like you guys aren't listening. We putting in all this work. They back there, they're not listening to me. But we know you are, or we like to know you are, but it's good to know that you are actually listening and that, we're not just pitching our pearls at swine.
Yeah.
So if anything, you guys have anything you want to say before we get off here? It's been about 45 minutes.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you, man. Coach, I've always been a fan of you as a coach, and now even as a preacher, man, and you've always showed up and showed out when I needed you to, man. So I appreciate you, man. It's an honor. And Coach Livingston, man, it's an honor meeting you. Hopefully we get an opportunity to all fellowship together soon.
Yeah, that you took the words right out of my mouth. I'll just say, let us make room at the table and let's break bread.
Let's do it. I love to eat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We can hit up a juicy crab.
Call it done.
Right. I appreciate y'all for coming on. What I would say to the viewers, I hope that you have a relationship with Christ. What you're watching is you are watching 3 different congregations, 3 different pastors. And what we would like you to know that we all stand on one accord. We're all fighting the same battle. We're fighting against, the spiritual battles. So it's not about denomination. It's not about age. It's not about background. It's all about fighting to uplift the kingdom. And as you see, we are doing that. I don't care if you visit my church. I don't care if you go to World Changers. I don't care if you go to Remnant Fellowship. Just go to somebody's church, get you a Bible-based church, and make sure that you're being fed. Make sure that you're being led. God loves you, so do I. Y'all be blessed.